Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome you to the virtual public scoping meeting for the ANCSA 17D1 withdrawals environmental impact statement. My name is Amanda Biederman, and I work for EMPSI and serve as a public outreach specialist for the project. We are a national environmental consulting firm working with the BLM to facilitate the forum and manage the Zoom application today. With me on the call today are my coworkers from EMPSI, Kate Krebs, Sean Cottle, Val Stanson, and Shine Roshan. I will be assisting the BLM today with facilitation of the forum and public input session. Before beginning today's presentation, we will briefly review the meeting agenda and the participation rules. I would like to remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded. To enable the use of closed captions, you can click the live transcript button icon on your Zoom toolbar and then select show subtitles. Next slide. Slide 2, meeting agenda. During today's meeting, we will outline the meeting approach and give a presentation about the project. The presentation will provide an overview of the planning area and describe the purpose of the environmental impact statement. Following the presentation, we will then move into the question and answer session. The final portion of the meeting will allow for public input as part of the formal scoping process. Before we get started today, I will now turn it over to Acting Anchorage District Manager, Lenore Hepler.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can, Lenore.
All right, thank you. And good afternoon. We are embarking on a process today that could change how millions of acres of public lands are managed for the decades to come. We're going to be looking at such questions as, should certain areas be open to the staking of new mining claims? Should certain lands be open for state selection to meet their entitlement under the Statehood Act? And then how will these changes affect lands open to federal subsistence hunting priority? And as we go through this, it's essential that we hear from and understand the concerns of the American public and the people who use and value these lands so that we can make well-reasoned recommendations to the Secretary. I want you to know, while we are at the first stage of the public involvement process, it is but the first. There will be many more opportunities for you to share your thoughts and concerns. We also will be reaching out to the communities involved, the tribal governments, the Native corporations, the state of Alaska, and other interested parties. It is our goal to help everyone understand the possibilities and the ramifications of these changes and to hear public input. Thank you for joining us today.
Great, thank you, Lenore. We'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. Slide 3, meeting logistics. Attendee videos will be turned off for the duration of the meeting. Questions will be received during the Q&A session using the Q&A feature. During the meeting, if you need technical assistance with your Zoom features, you can enter your message into the chat feature located at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and a technician will contact you. Your microphone will remain muted until the public input session at the very end of the meeting, at which time the facilitator will enable microphones as needed. Verbal input will be open to participants that indicated interest in speaking during registration. Others will be called upon in response to a raised hand. Next slide. Slide 4, meeting details. Displayed on the screen are some meeting controls located in your Zoom toolbar that you can access during the meeting. If you do not see your Zoom toolbar, you may need to toggle your mouse around or push on your phone screen for it to pop up. And again, we will provide more detailed instructions during the Q&A and input sessions on how to access these features. We do ask that you avoid using inappropriate language and respect all participants and viewpoints for the duration of this meeting. Next slide. Slide 5, acronyms and definitions. We wanted to share a few commonly used acronyms and definitions of terms used during this presentation. While we will try to keep the use of acronyms to a minimum, there are a few you will hear us often say, so let's run through them. ANCSA is the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act of 1971. DOD is Department of Defense. EIS is Environmental Impact Statement. ESA is the Endangered Species Act of 1973. FLTMA is the Federal Land Policy and Management Act of 1976. NEPA is the National Environmental Policy Act of 1969. NHPA is the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966. And PLO is Public Land Order. Public land orders are actions implemented by the Secretary of the Interior to make, modify, extend, or revoke land withdrawals under the authority of the Federal Land Policy and Management Act of 1976. Withdrawals withdraw the lands in federal ownership, effectively removing an area of federal land from settlement, sale, location, or entry for the purpose of limiting activities under those laws to maintain other public values in the area, or reserving it for a particular public purpose or program. Withdrawals are also used to transfer jurisdiction over federal land from one department, bureau, or agency to another. I would now like to introduce Rachel Jones, the BLM project manager, to introduce the project and the team. And we can flip over to slide 6, introductions.
Thank you, Amanda. Hello, and thank you for joining our meeting today. My name is Rachel Jones, and I'm the BLM project manager. We are currently in the process of gathering information to inform the development of an environmental impact statement. The purpose of today's meeting is really to provide you with information on what this project is about. We also want to provide you an opportunity to give us verbal and written input during the scoping period so that we have the information to move forward with preparing the EIS. We have not yet started preparing the EIS, rather, we just have begun the scoping process under the National Environmental Policy Act by really opening the scoping period. We are engaging you to hear thoughts and input and concerns tonight to help us identify issues or alternatives that we'll need to address during the development of the EIS. We also have some additional BLM support today behind the scenes to help us answer some questions. On the line, we have Chelsea Kreiner, our BLM Alaska Withdrawals Coordinator. And we have Serena Sweet, our BLM Alaska Supervisory Planner and Environmental Coordinator. And both of them will be helping us answer questions related to the project and the NEPA process.
Great, thank you, Rachel. We'll go ahead and move on to our next slide. Slide 7, project presentation. We will now start the project presentation. This presentation will cover some background information to help everyone understand how we got here, what the focus of the EIS will be, the EIS and NEPA process and our expected timeline. We will discuss the project area, how to participate in this scoping period, and the type of input that is very helpful for the BLM and that will guide our preparation of the EIS. So at this time, we'll go ahead and start that presentation.
Slide 8, background. Only Congress and the Secretary of the Interior have the authority to make, modify, extend, or revoke land withdrawals. When the BLM identifies a need to act on a land withdrawal, the appropriate environmental reviews are coordinated, and the BLM makes a recommendation to the Secretary on how to proceed. The BLM made recommendations to revoke or partially revoke ANCSA 17D1 withdrawals and the approved resource management plans for Bay, Bering Sea Western Interior, East Alaska, Kobuk-Seward Peninsula, and Ring of Fire planning areas. In January 2021, the Secretary acted on those recommendations by signing 5 public land orders, which would have revoked withdrawals established under INCSA Section 17D1 in these 5 planning areas. In February 2021, the Department reviewed those public land order decisions and identified certain procedural and legal defects in the decision-making process, and subsequently directed the BLM to address the legal defects in the decision through preparation of an Environmental Impact Statement, or EIS. Slide 9, Focus of EIS. This EIS will focus on addressing the legal deficiencies the Department identified during their review, which include insufficient analysis under NEPA, failure to follow Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act, NHPA, possible failure to adequately evaluate impacts under Section 7 of the Endangered Species Act, ESA, failure to secure consent from the Department of Defense, DoD, with regard to lands under DoD administration, as well as failure to adequately analyze potential impacts on subsistence hunting and fishing, and reliance on potentially outdated data in EISs prepared in 2006 and 2007. Slide 10, EIS NEPA process and timeline. The EIS process started on August 18, 2022, when the Notice of Intent was published in the Federal Register, opening a 60-day scoping period. This comment period closes on October 17, 2022. After the scoping period concludes, the BLM will compile the input we received from external stakeholders in the form of a scoping report that will be published on the project website. The BLM will use that information to focus on issues and alternatives that will be analyzed in our EIS. Analysis of issues and alternatives and preparation of the analysis into the EIS will take some time, but we expect to have a draft EIS for public review in the summer 2023, with a minimum of 60 days for comment. Part of the preparation of the draft EIS will be reviewing the EISs prepared in 2006 and 2007 and determining what analysis needs to be updated or identifying analysis that may be missing. After the comment period on the draft EIS is complete, the BLM will address public comments and prepare and publish the final EIS and recommendation to the Secretary. Slide 11, Proposed Action Overview. The proposed action is to revoke INCSA 17D1 withdrawals on lands described in January 2021 Public Land Orders 7899, 7900, 7901, 7902, and 7903, which totals approximately 28 million acres across the 5 planning areas. Slide 12, Project Area Map. The BLM prepared a web map for this project, which is what I am going to access for this presentation. This web map is accessed through our project website. On the project website, listed on the menu to the left-hand side of the web page, there is a Maps tab. Click on that tab and you will see a section for both static maps and PDF. Those are listed at the bottom of the page, and a link to the web map at the top. The project area includes lands in Bay, Bering Sea Western Interior, East Alaska, Kobuk-Seward Peninsula, and Ring of Fire planning areas, which cover the western and southern portions of Alaska. The areas under evaluation are limited to the withdrawal areas that were described in the January 2021 public land orders. This map is showing the 5 planning areas with a black outline and depicts the D1 withdrawal evaluation areas with a black hatching pattern. The D1 withdrawals layer is listed as one of the layers on the legend to the right and is named D1 withdrawals with an evaluation area. This evaluation area makes up approximately 28 million acres. Within this evaluation area, there are several different types of lands. For example, there are special recreation management areas, areas of critical environmental concern, native selected land, state selected land, and state top filed land. The land status types and land use designations mentioned can be viewed by finding their layer on the legend to the right and clicking the box next to the layer name. This map is a dynamic map that will allow the user to pan around and zoom in and out of areas of interest. Also available on the project website is a series of print-ready maps in PDF format. Slide 13, Alternatives. The BLM is required to include alternatives in any proposal which involves unresolved conflicts concerning alternative uses of available resources. The proposed revocations have the potential to allow obtaining mining claims, location, or applications for title, entry, under public land laws, including the mining laws, and may result in changes to the land use. Changes to the existing land use could affect local residents, recreation access, wildlife, vegetation, cultural resources, subsistence use, air resources, and water resources. The BLM will consider a range of alternatives in this EIS. Alternatives could include full or partial revocation of the ANCSA 17D1 withdrawals, meaning that we could evaluate an alternative that revokes some areas of the withdrawals, but leaves other areas with the withdrawal in place, or alternatives could include retaining withdrawal protections through a different type of withdrawal, such as those under the Federal Land Policy and Management Act, or FLPMA withdrawals. Alternatives will be based on what the BLM hears from interested stakeholders during this scoping period. Slide 14, How to comment. There are many ways to provide scoping comments during the scoping period. The BLM is hosting 3 virtual public meetings, which are listed on BLM's e-planning website and advertised on social media. All public comments will be recorded for the record. You can also fill out a comment form online, submit comments by regular mail, or deliver them in person to any BLM office. The address is Bureau of Land Management. Attention, ANCSA 17D1 Withdrawals EIS, 222 West 7th Avenue, Suite 13, Anchorage, Alaska, 99513. All comments must be received by October 17, 2022 to be included in the scoping report. Comments received after that date will be considered but will not be incorporated into the scoping report. Slide 15. Comments most helpful to BLM. Public and stakeholder input most helpful to BLM includes comments that relate to potential impacts associated with full or partial revocation of the ANCSA 17D1 withdrawals in the areas under evaluation. Examples may include identifying important subsistence use areas or recreation use areas that could be affected by potential changes in the existing land use. BLM has guidance for making substantive comments, which you can access online at https://www.blm.gov/PLANS/DEPENDENT/ALASKA. Slide 16. Thank you. This concludes the scoping presentation. The BLM has prepared some FAQs for this project that are available on the project website. If you have questions about information shared in this presentation, you can refer to the FAQ document or email Rachel Jones at rajones@blm.gov.
And that concludes our project presentation today. We're going to go ahead and move on to our question and answer session at this time. Again, my name is Amanda Biederman with EMPSI, and I will be assisting with the question and answer session today. I wanted to provide a quick reminder to everyone that a recording of this meeting will be made available on the project website. We would now like to answer any NEPA and EIS related questions that you may have asked either during registration or that you might have on the material that we presented today. We will take about 20 minutes to answer questions that you have on the presentation. Again, this is your opportunity today to ask questions to BLM staff who are present on the meeting. If you have any public comments or input that you would like to provide, please save them for the public input portion of the meeting that will begin shortly after this question and answer session. So let's review the forum guidelines and then we will begin the question and answer session. Step 1, please click on the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. You may have to toggle your mouse to get the toolbar to pop up. Step 2, type your question into the Q&A feature. Please note that you can submit your questions anonymously if you would like. If your question is within the scope of this project and the BLM is able to respond to it today, a specialist from the BLM will then either answer your question live or type an answer back to the entire audience. And I will make sure that any typed answers that we send via the Q&A feature today, that I will read those aloud for everyone on the meeting today. If you are on the phone, you can press *9 on your phone keypad to indicate that you have a question, and your microphone will be opened for your question. Once your question has been asked, the host will close your microphone and the specialist will provide an answer. In the interest of time, we are only able to allow verbal questions from participants on the phone today, and we ask that all others please enter their questions into the Q&A feature. We will reserve some time at the end of our Q&A session for phone callers. We will do our very best to answer all the in-scope questions received today. However, it is possible that we will not get to everyone's questions today. If the BLM was not able to get to your question today, or if you seek additional information, please refer to the project website that we've dropped into the chat feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Or again, you can contact the BLM project manager, Rachel Jones, at rajones@blm.gov. And please note that if your question is outside the scope of this project or inappropriate, it will be dismissed and will not be responded to by the BLM today. So at this time, I'll give everyone a few minutes to access that Q&A feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And again, you can type your question into that Q&A feature and send it over to us, and we will hopefully get a response to you. Again, please try not to use the chat feature today. That chat feature is intended for us distributing information to attendees today, as well as troubleshooting any technical issues that you have. So if you do submit any questions via that chat feature, we just ask that you navigate over to that Q&A feature instead. Submit it via that Q&A feature so that we can get it in our list of questions today. And again, we'll just wait a few minutes here to get our questions coming in via that Q&A feature. Again, we ask that you be patient when you submit your question. Only submit your question once. It might take us a few minutes to process your question and designate the BLM specialist who is best suited to respond to that question today. And while we wait for those questions to come in, I will read through one of the registration questions that we received on our meeting last week on September 22nd. We had a virtual public meeting. We have one additional meeting after this on October 4th, I believe. So I'll read through some of those registration questions that we received that we provided responses to while we wait for these additional questions today to come in. So one of those registration questions that we received again on our previous meeting was, why are you not relying on the previous evaluations of these PLOs completed under the respective management plan reviews? And we provided a typed response to that question during that September 22nd meeting. And our typed response was, after review of the January 2021 decisions to revoke the D1 withdrawals in these areas, certain procedural and legal defects were identified in the decision-making process, such as insufficient analysis under NEPA and failure to comply with the National Historic Preservation Act, or NHPA. Due to the identified deficiencies, the Department of the Interior, relying on inherent authority to revisit decisions based on identified legal errors, delayed the openings of lands and provided an opportunity for updated environmental analysis and time to follow the correct procedural requirements. So again, that was a question that we received on our previous meeting. So I just wanted to read that as we wait for additional questions to come in today. And again, just a reminder that I know there are several different features in Zoom, so I'll just pause again to explain that we're accepting questions via that Q&A feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We want to make sure that you send it over into that Q&A feature so that we can either mark it as live answered, or we can provide a typed response to you once we get to your question in our list of questions today. So again, any kind of technical or logistical issues you're having with any Zoom features, you can use that chat box. But right now we are in the Q&A session, so we ask that you use that Q&A feature to send any questions you have over to us today. And again, while we receive those questions coming in via the Q&A feature, I'll go ahead and read through one of our other registration questions that we received during our September 22nd meeting to just fill some time while we get those responses developed for everyone today. So our other registration question that we received on the September 22nd meeting was a request for in-person hearings with large maps. And our response was that at this time, no in-person public meetings are currently scheduled during the scoping phase of this EIS process. However, we are developing our post-scoping public outreach plan and will be determining how and where we will be reaching out to interested stakeholders. So again, that was a question that was submitted on registration for the September 22nd meeting that we had. So I just wanted to read through that one as well while we wait for our additional questions today. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move into a registration question that we received for today's meeting. Again, the two that I just read were for the meeting that we had on September 22nd. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and read this registration question that we received. The registrant stated that bandwidth is difficult and unsteady in the Calista region. So the question was, will consultation happen in the region? And I will go to Lenore Hepler with the BLM to provide a live response to that question.
Thank you for that question. Yes, our intent is to conduct government-to-government consultation with any tribal government or Alaska Native corporation that wants it. And our intent is to do that in person if possible. And we're working on an outreach plan right now. We've sent letters to each of the entities asking if they wanted to be cooperating agencies and about consultation. And we send emails about these meetings, but we're going to be following up soon with phone calls to make sure that anyone who is interested in it gets on the list so we can do our planning.
Great, thank you for that response, Lenore. I'll go ahead and put you on mute and we'll move on to our next question received. So this was another pre-registration question that we received from attendees. They submitted this upon their registration. So the question was, can you produce maps showing D1s within 50 miles of each community near BLM managed land? And I will go back to Lenore Hepler to provide another live response to that question.
Okay, so, during the presentation, I think you saw that interactive map, and that is pretty impressive to me. I can look through that and see a lot more information than I can on paper maps. However, we recognize the capacity for systems in various communities, and we will be creating maps for our visits to these communities. And you know, if the maps that are available on the e-planning website aren't sufficient for you, let us know and we'll get you maps that work for you.
Great, thank you for that response, Lenore. I'll go ahead and put you back on mute. And again, as I said earlier, we are doing a mix of live and typed responses. Once we get those typed responses developed, we will put them into the Q&A feature, which is why we ask that you submit your questions via that Q&A feature. However, I'll make sure that I read aloud any typed responses as well for any phone callers that we might have on the line today. And again, an entire recording of this meeting will be posted to the BLM's project page, and there will be a full transcript, so you can read through the full transcript of today's meeting. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to our next question received. And this was a question that came in via the Q&A feature. So the question was, what version of the NEPA regulations will this EIS be operating under? And we are going to go to Steve Scordino with the BLM to provide a live response to that question. So Steve, I can help get you unmuted and have your video turned on here. There we go.
I'm sorry, what was I responding to? I was working on something else.
Sure, no problem, Steve. So the question was, what version of the NEPA regulations will this EIS be operating under?
Thank you. So the most recent, these will be under the most recent regulations. Those were published in April 20th, 2022 in the Federal Register. It's at 87 FR 23453. And this will be under those regulations.
Great, thank you, Steve, for that response. I'll go ahead and put you back on mute, and we'll move on to our additional questions received today. Again, we have about 10-15 minutes remaining in our Q&A session today. We're going to continue to try and work our way through as many questions as we can that are coming in through that Q&A feature today. Again, you can go to the Q&A feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen, type your question into that Q&A feature. Again, you can submit it anonymously if you would like. And again, just a reminder that we are in our Q&A session right now. So if you have any public input that you would like to provide today, any verbal public input, please save that for the verbal public input portion of the meeting that will happen after this Q&A session. And again, you can type your question into the Q&A feature. We're working on developing our responses to questions received so far during our question and answer session. Again, we have about 10 or so minutes remaining on our Q&A session. All right, I'm going to move on to another one of our questions that we received. And this was a question that was asked during registration. So the question was, how is the BLM going to address section 106? And we provided a typed response to that question that we'll put into the Q&A and chat feature. But again, I'll read this response aloud for all of our participants who are on the line today. We have a few phone callers, so I want to make sure that I read these typed responses aloud for everyone. So in response to that registration question, we stated that the BLM will use the NEPA process to help fulfill the public involvement process under Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act. Information about historic and cultural resources within the area potentially affected by the proposed action will assist the BLM in identifying and evaluating impacts to such resources. Federal, state, and local agencies, along with tribes and other stakeholders that may be interested in or affected by the proposed opening of lands withdrawn by Section 17D1 of ANCSA, are invited to participate in the scoping process and, if eligible, may request or be asked by the BLM to participate in the development of the EIS as cooperating agencies. Potentially affected tribes, ANCSA corporations, Alaska boroughs, and certain Alaskan cities are invited to consult under Section 106 of the NHPA, and the BLM will work with consulting parties to schedule consultation meetings. So again, I know that was a long response to that question, so we'll make sure that we copy and paste that into the chat feature because that was a pre-registration question that we received. So we did just post that into the chat feature so that our attendees can read through that response. Okay, so we have developed quite a few typed responses to our questions received. So I'm going to go ahead and read through the responses that we have developed so far. If we have to move into our public input session before we get to all of the questions today, we'll try and save some time at the end to loop back around, and I'll read through our additional typed responses. For now, I'll go through and read through the ones that we have developed so far. So our next question that we received, and this was one received via the Q&A feature, was why were the interested parties not notified? And the attendee stated that they were on the EARMP list and did not receive notification. And we'll provide again a typed response to that, but I'll read it aloud as well. So our response was that on September 7th, the BLM notified interested public via email if they were on our interested party list, via newspaper advertisement, and via social media. If individuals would like to be added to the interested party list, please email Rachel Jones, the project manager, again at rajones@blm.gov. All right, we'll move on to our next typed response. So the question that we received via the Q&A feature was, how will sacred knowledge be handled in such a vast area? Those who handle specific and sacred traditional knowledge under this EIS, how will that information be applied and protected? And the attendee noted that the CEQ has a working group and has rolled out guidance. So the question was, how will that be applied? And we'll provide a typed response to this question, but again, I'll read it aloud as well. So our response is that the BLM will be sending invitations to the tribes to participate as cooperating agencies if they have special expertise. This will be an opportunity to share traditional knowledge with the BLM to incorporate into the EIS. We will review the new guidance and work with the tribes to assure that sacred knowledge is protected. And again, these are being developed by the BLM as we're receiving questions today. But if any of our BLM panelists have any additional verbal input that they want to provide to these typed responses, feel free to access that raise hand feature, or you can directly unmute yourself. For now, we'll go ahead and move on to our next typed response to a question that we received via the Q&A feature. So the question was, how will you consult with tribes in these 5 planning areas whose ancestral land is covered by these public land orders? And our typed response is, tribes and Alaska Native corporations are invited to consult with the BLM on this EIS. Letters to both tribes and Alaska Native corporations were sent at the end of August, inviting consultation on this EIS. Please reach out to the project manager to coordinate consultation. During the planning process, the BLM will continue to consult with potentially affected federally recognized tribes on a government-to-government basis and with affected Alaska Native corporations through ANCSA consultation. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to our next question. Again, we're trying our best to get through all of the questions submitted today. All right, so the next question that we received via the Q&A feature today was, can we have more information about the legal deficiencies? And the attendee noted that even in the notice that came out in the Federal Register, there was very little detail on PLO pause. Can you give us a few examples? And so again, we'll provide a typed response to this in both the Q&A and chat features, and I'll read this typed response aloud as well. So our response is the legal deficiencies the department identified during their review, which included insufficient analysis under NEPA, failure to follow Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act, or NHPA, possible failure to adequately evaluate impacts under Section 7 of the Endangered Species Act, ESA, failure to secure consent from the Department of Defense, or DoD, with regard to lands under DoD administration, as well as failure to adequately analyze potential impacts on subsistence hunting and fishing, and reliance on potentially outdated data in EISs prepared in 2006 and 2007. So again, that was a question that we received via our Q&A feature, and I just read aloud our typed response that we provided both in the Q&A feature as well as the chat feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. All right, I'll go ahead and move on to our next question received via the Q&A feature. That question was, will you be sending out hard copy maps to tribes near the subject D1 lands? And we'll provide a typed response to that, and then I'll see if Lenore Hepler wants to come on and provide any additional input. But our typed response is yes, as requested, we will be reaching out soon to tribal governments and Native corporations to see what their needs are. The BLM has also prepared a web map that can be accessed on the project website, and we'll drop that project website link into both the Q&A and chat features. And Lenore, was there anything you wanted to provide on that further?
No, I think that covers it. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Lenore. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to our next question received via the Q&A feature, which was, when will more detailed maps be available? And our response, we'll type that out, but again, I'll read it here aloud, is that yes, and let us know what you want, and we will see if we can provide that for you. And again, the BLM has also prepared a web map that can be accessed on the project website. Again, we'll drop that project website link into the Q&A and chat feature. You can copy and paste those links that we've provided out of your chat feature and save them for a later time. Again, we'll try and get through our last few questions coming in via the Q&A feature. No, we're going a little over on our Q&A portion, but wanted to make sure that we get as many questions answered as possible today before we move into our verbal public input portion. But again, if you have any additional questions or you seek additional information, again, as we said earlier during the meeting, you can contact Rachel Jones, the project manager for this project. We've provided her email address multiple times, or you can go to the project website link, which is listed in our chat feature. And again, we're just trying to develop responses for these last few questions before we move into our verbal public input portion of today's meeting. We did receive a question via the Q&A feature. How will an SEIS address deficiencies with Section 106? This was kind of the same as question number 3 that we received regarding how we're going to address Section 106. We did provide that typed response in the Q&A and chat features. So we won't provide that response again, but just know that those were very similar questions. So that's kind of the same response to both of those questions. All right, I'll move on to our next question, which is it possible for tribes to request consultation with BLM after the October 17th comment deadline? And we'll provide a typed response to this, but I'll go ahead and read it aloud as well. So our response is that yes, this will be a 2-year project and consultation will be ongoing throughout the entire project. All right, so I believe we have just 1 or 2 questions remaining here before, again, we move into our public input portion of today's evening. Thank you, everyone, for your patience as we have developed those responses to provide both in a typed format as well as me reading them aloud for any phone callers we have on the line. Speaking of phone callers, we recognize that you don't have access to that Q&A feature today. So if you have a question that you would like to ask verbally, you can let us know by accessing that raise hand feature. You can press *9 on your phone keypad. That'll access the raise hand feature for you. Again, we are still in our Q&A session. So if you have any verbal public input you want to provide, please save that for our verbal public input portion that will be coming up here shortly. All right, we'll move into our last question received via the Q&A feature. So the question was, if you are able, would you be able to address my board of directors of the affected sites near Dillingham, Alaska? And the second part of that question was, is there a way to identify, quote, Bay as Bristol Bay? And our brief typed response was that, yes, we can address the board. And we're also going to pull up a map and believe, Lenore, were you going to help kind of address this question here?
Yes, I can. So
Perfect.
When we talk about Bay, that is the Bay Resource Management Plan that was completed several years ago. It was one of 5 plans that this effort covers. So this map that's showing on the screen right now are the lands that were covered under the Bay Plan. So these are included, and you can see these yellow areas with the cross hatching. Those are the areas under consideration here in this EIS. And just contact us and we can set up something to meet with the board of directors.
Excellent. Thank you, Lenore, for that response. I'll go ahead and put you on mute and turn off your video. And I don't see any raised hands coming in from our phone callers. And I don't believe I see any additional questions coming in. via the Q&A feature for now. I'll give it one more minute here before we transition into our verbal public input portion of today's meeting. All right, so we received one last question that came in via the Q&A feature that we're going to respond to today before we move into that verbal public input portion. So the question was, is it correct that PLO 5180 does not allow mining, leasing, nor state selection, but allows mining for metalliferous minerals with a mine size limitation to 20 acres? And I will go back to Lenore Hepler to respond to that.
So the thing about these PLOs is there's many layers and many overlapping PLOs. So until you really drill down on the specifics that you're looking at, it's hard to make generalization. 5180 does allow for metalliferous mining. And you know, when we talk about withdrawals, what we're talking about is not so much mining, but the staking of mining claims. And 5180 does allow for the staking of metalliferous mining claims. So that's like gold and silver. I've not heard anything about a 20-acre limit. So I kind of doubt that, but these are the kind of specifics we're going to have to dive into to see if we've got overlapping PLOs. So we might have an area that has 5180 that allows for metalliferous, but is also covered by a withdrawal under the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act on the wild segments of rivers are closed to mining, all kinds of locatable minerals. And then that would be the one that that area would be closed. So until you start talking about specific areas where you can really get drill down into what is happening, it's kind of hard to make generalizations, but 5180 does allow for metalliferous. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Lenore, for that response. And as I just said, I don't see any raised hands from phone callers. I don't see any more questions coming in via the Q&A feature. So at this time, we can go ahead and flip to our next slide for our verbal public input portion of today's meeting. Again, I really appreciate everyone's patience while we developed those typed responses that I also read aloud. Again, if you feel that BLM was not able to get to your question today, or if you seek additional information, again, please refer to the project website, or you can contact Rachel Jones at rajones@blm.gov. All right, so at this time, we'll go ahead and move on to slide 18, public comment session ground rules. We are now going to begin the verbal public input portion of today's meeting. We will be accepting verbal public input only for this portion of the meeting. Again, if the BLM was not able to get to your question during the question and answer session, or you seek additional information or have additional questions, please refer to the project website or contact Rachel Jones at rajones@blm.gov. I will remind everyone that your microphone will remain closed until you have been called on to provide your input. We will display the list of all the ways to provide input once more following the verbal public input session, and the virtual project website address will be displayed during the input session. Because the BLM wants to hear from all members of the public, we will be using the following guidelines. First, please be mindful of the length of your comment so that everyone who wants to speak has an opportunity to do so today. Second, comments should be focused on this specific project. Third, please be respectful of others and their viewpoints. And finally, please refrain from using profanity. While passion is welcome in your comment, policy requires that we mute anyone who uses inappropriate language because we are recording this meeting and others may be live streaming. So please avoid inappropriate language. If that does happen, we'll provide a reminder before unmuting the person to try again, using words acceptable to all ages. Next slide. Slide 19, how to provide verbal input. I will now read the instructions for those participants who indicated they wanted to offer input when they pre-registered for this meeting. Input will be accepted in the order that people registered. When it is your turn to provide your comment, we will read your name aloud from the list and display your name on the screen. We will also display the name of the commenter who is next in line. When you hear your name called out, please use the raise hand feature so that we know you are available and ready to offer your input. You can access the raise hand feature by clicking on either the reactions icon in your Zoom toolbar or just the raise hand feature in your Zoom toolbar, depending on which version of Zoom you have. These icons are both located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you wave your mouse back and forth across the bottom of your screen, these icons should appear. You may need to exit out of your full screen Zoom view to see these icons. Or if you are calling in through the phone, please press *9 to access the raise hand feature. You can then press *6 on your phone keypad to unmute. Once you have raised your hand, you will then be unmuted so that you can provide your verbal public input. If your audio is not working, you may need to click your unmute button on your computer screen or respond to any pop-up messages about unmuting your microphone. Once you have confirmed audio, please spell out your first and last name for the record before providing your verbal public input. We will then let you know that you can begin your comment, and we will start your on-screen timer. If you are representing an organization or group, please state the name of the organization or group as a part of your comment. Each participant will have 3 minutes to provide their verbal input today. Again, we ask that you be mindful and respectful of the length of your input in order to allow others the opportunity to offer their input as well. After you've provided your input, we will put you on mute and move on to our next participant. If you do not feel that you were able to complete your input today, the BLM strongly encourages you to submit the remainder of your input in writing. Should there be more time after the initial round of input, those who did not finish may be invited back to finish providing their input. Some registrants may have already had their questions answered and dropped off. However, we will still go through our entire list of registered commenters, but if they are not on the meeting, we will move forward quickly to make sure everyone who is still on the meeting has the opportunity to provide input today. Once we have worked our way through the list of pre-registered commenters who registered before the start time of today's meeting, we will move on to those who registered after the start time of today's meeting, who selected they wanted to offer a comment. If we still have time remaining after we have worked our way through those participants, we will open the verbal public input portion of today's meeting to anyone who would like to offer a comment today who has not already done so. Next slide. All right, so slide 20, public scoping session. So our first participant who registered stating that they would like to provide input is Suzanne Little. So Suzanne, if you are on the call today, if you could access the raise hand feature. And I do see you on our call today, Suzanne, so I can go ahead and unmute you directly here. Hi, Suzanne, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. And I don't wish to comment at this time. Thank you very much, though.
Okay, great.
I
Thank you,
appreciate-
Suzanne.
I appreciate all the information. It's very helpful.
Excellent. Thank you, Suzanne. I'll go ahead and put you back on mute then, and we'll move on to our next pre-registered commenter, who is Tana Finisand. And apologies if I mispronounce anyone's names tonight. So Tana, if you could access that raise hand feature. All right, perfect. I see your raised hand, so I'll go ahead and ask you to unmute. If you could spell your first and last name aloud for the record, and then we'll go ahead and start your timer.
Yes, my first name is it's Tana, T-A-N-A. My last name is Finisand, F-I-N-N-E-S-A-N-D. I'm the cultural resources person for Ahtna Incorporated, which is the Regional Native Corporation based in the Copper River Valley. It just had this is a pretty sketchy, or not sketchy, but unrehearsed input, and we will submit written comments, but quickly, we're concerned about this with regard to cultural resources, because there doesn't seem to have been any or sufficient Section 106 review, cultural resources assessment on these lands. And there needs to be comprehensive review of the cultural resources in the areas where the PLOs are to be lifted. And this comprehensive review needs to include consultation with the tribes, not just a search of the AHRS cultural resources database with the state, but it should include archaeological surveys and person-to-person consultation with the tribes. These PLOs conflict with other programs that the BLM is doing, specifically the Alaska Native Veterans Land Allotment Program. Currently, the vets are making selections from these lands, vetting the withdrawn lands, and there's been no cultural resources clearance on them. The deadlines for that program and this EIS are going to be pretty close, it looks like, and that's a bad deal for the vets, because if they don't get their land, then they have to try and pick from other ones, and they might not have sufficient time to do it. So, and it's bad for the corporations, because there hasn't been good Section 106 review. So I guess that's all I have to say right now. It's kind of, like I said, a scattered comment, but we'll submit written comments also. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Tana. I'll go ahead and put you back on mute and lower your hand, and we'll move on to our next pre-registered commenter. And again, if you want to submit any additional comments, you can submit those in writing. But for now, we'll continue to move through our list of pre-registered commenters in our verbal public input session today. All right, our next pre-registered commenter is Charlie Fitka. And Charlie, I don't see you on our list of Zoom participants. You might be our phone caller. So if you are calling in through the phone, again, you can access that same raise hand feature by pressing *9 on your phone keypad. Okay, I see a raised hand from phone caller 1035. So I'll confirm first that this is Charlie. If not, we'll ask that you wait until we open up the public input portion to everyone. So I'll go ahead and ask you to unmute. And for our phone caller, again, you can press *6 on your phone keypad to unmute yourself on your end. There we go. I think you're unmuted. Is this Charlie?
Yes, this is Charlie Fitka. I just have a question. Would you know, we have reindeer and we have grazing for our reindeer up there. Would you still open if you found gold or silver or whatever is up there?
Thanks, Charlie. Right now, we're in our public input session. You're welcome to ask questions as a part of your comment, and those will be recorded for the record, and they'll get incorporated into, again, the record for scoping. For now, we're just accepting verbal input, but you're welcome to ask questions as part of that.
Okay, I have nothing. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Charlie, for coming on the phone and providing your input. Again, our entire meeting is being recorded. And so all of this input will be incorporated into the transcript that will be provided to the BLM. All right, for now, we'll go ahead and move on to our next pre-registered commenter, who is Maddie Halloran. So Maddie, if you're on the call today, all right, I see your raised hand, so I'll go ahead and ask you to unmute. Hi, Maddie, can you hear us?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. All right, if you'll spell your first and last name aloud for the record, and then we'll start your timer.
Sure. Maddie Halloran, Maddie, last name Halloran. And I'm ready whenever you are.
All right, you can go ahead and get started.
Okay. Hi, my name is Maddie Halloran. I was born and raised in Anchorage, Alaska, where I'm calling in from today. And I'm testifying as the manager of Alaska campaigns for Alaska Wilderness League. We have offices in Alaska and Washington, D.C., and we focus on protecting Alaska's wildlands and waters by inspiring broad support for federal policy action. I want to thank you for the opportunity to comment today. And first, I'd like to urge that we keep all of the current D1 withdrawals under consideration in place. These lands provide for crucial public access, and it's important they remain that way, as retaining protections for these landscapes is necessary to support subsistence resources such as wildlife, fish, and many plants, clean water, and community access to public lands. Specifically, throughout the scoping period and the remainder of the EIS project, I'd encourage you to consider the following aspects of these lands. D1 lands support communities, protect cultural resources, and support a variety of subsistence opportunities. Those subsistence resources utilize and depend on large intact landscapes. Fragmenting these landscapes and watersheds by lifting these protections will harm fish and wildlife habitat and could harm subsistence opportunities. Big game migration corridors and the important landscape connectivity provided by BLM lands all over the state of Alaska are so important to the health of herds, and it's important to maintain those landscapes to support caribou, moose, and other populations for continued use. These lands are really important to traditional use and food security. They also help to buffer communities and their critical resources against the effects of things like climate change. They protect biodiversity and make communities more resilient to extreme weather events and natural disasters. I would ask that you take this opportunity to also consider holistically examining the associated resource management plans for these areas, as many of them don't consider crucial environmental issues like the effects of climate change. Finally, I would ask that you consider extending this comment period for adequate review of areas under consideration and community input for scoping. The recent really severe storm that impacted Western Alaska impacted many involved communities, and the related BLM mapping tool that you reviewed earlier, while it's very cool and extremely helpful, was only just released to the public last week. It would be really helpful to have additional time to conduct some outreach and education using that and the other mapping tools. Thank you for this opportunity to comment during the scoping period, and have a great day.
Great, thank you, Maddie, for that comment. I'll go ahead and put you on mute, and we'll move on to our next pre-registered commenter, who is Lisa Wax. So Lisa, if you could access the raise hand feature to let us know that you're ready to provide your comment today. Let's see, I see Lisa in my Zoom participants list. So Lisa, I'll go ahead and just ask you to unmute here. And let me try one more time, Lisa. You might need to unmute yourself from your end. Or feel free, if you no longer wish to provide a comment, you can send us a chat message and let us know. But I'll try one more time here again to get you unmuted. All right, I've asked you to unmute a few times, Lisa. So if you no longer want to provide a comment, no problem. You can let us know in the chat feature. We can try and loop back around to you again at the end here to see if you want to provide your comment. For now, I think that does lead us to the end of our pre-registered list of commenters. I'll go into my Zoom account here quickly and see if we have anyone who registered after the start time of today's meeting who wants to provide a comment today. All right, I don't see any additional registrants who selected that they wanted to offer a comment when they signed up for today's meeting. So at this time, since we do have time remaining on our meeting, we'll open up the public input portion of the meeting to anyone who would like to offer any kind of verbal public input today, regardless of whether you selected yes or no during registration. So if you haven't already provided a comment today and you would like to do so at this time, you can let us know by accessing the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're having troubles accessing that raise hand feature, you can just send us a chat message letting us know that you would like to provide some verbal public input today. So we'll wait and give it a few minutes, and I'll look out for any raised hands that I see or chat messages from participants today. Again, you can access the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Depending on your version of Zoom, it might be in your Zoom reactions icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you can't find that raise hand feature, you can send us a chat message letting us know that you would like to provide verbal public input today. And again, if you would like to provide any verbal public input today, you can let us know by accessing the raise hand feature. Or you can send us a chat message if that raise hand feature isn't working for you today. And we'll give it just a few more minutes here before we move into our closing remarks slide. So again, this is your opportunity to provide your verbal public input today. If you would like to provide verbal public input, you can let us know by accessing the raise hand feature. All right, I don't see any raised hands from any of our participants today. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move into our last slide, slide 21, closing remarks. And I'm going to turn it over to Rachel Jones, again, the BLM project manager, to close us out this evening or today.
That concludes our virtual public meeting for today. We thank you for your participation, and please, for more information, visit our project website, or you can email me at you can email me, Rachel Jones, at rajones@blm.gov. And please remember that you can submit written comments until October 17th. Have a good afternoon.
Great, thank you, Rachel. I'll leave this slide up here for about a minute more, and then I'll close out of today's meeting. Thank you, everyone, for your patience today. We really appreciate all of your questions and comments and participation today. Have a great rest of your day.